through Matthew 5, Jesus is really describing the characteristics or the traits that he wants to see in people following him. This is what he's describing. And so being humble is definitely a trait or a characteristic that we should have if we are followers of Christ. And the reward of being humble is that we will inherit the earth. That's God's reward to us. So it's basically you giving up your own rights when you humble yourself to serve others. And that's what God did when he sent his son, Jesus, in man's form. He came down to serve us. And I think that's the problem why the Pharisees and the Sadducees had a problem with him, because they wanted him to be a king. They wanted him to be mighty and powerful. And God came in a very humble form, and he came to serve others. And we are to be like-minded or likewise like Christ. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's true. And if you don't understand what a kingdom is, you could be lost, because you got to think too, when he says in the word inherit means you become heir. You become heir to what? The earth, meaning that if you believe it, asking my name, I am the king. My father is before me. He's the king in heaven, of earth, and everything. Jesus said, I'm the king of earth. So if you come in my name and ask me my name, I will give you privy to the earth. You become heir to the earth just as much as me. Not meaning you become the ruler and all this other stuff, meaning you get abundance and whatever all this other stuff that people be looking for without being hateful, trying to seek power and all these other things that people are. You can still be gentle in the earth, loving people, serving people, and become heir to what? The kingdom of earth.
But something you said about God is our Father and we receive an inheritance from him. You cannot receive the inheritance unless you have a relationship. And so that is a requirement for all of these things to be blessed upon you. You have to be in right standing and have a relationship. Because think about it in man terms, right? If, someone is your father and he has all of this money, power, riches, whatever it is, and you stand to inherit it. If you and your father have a falling out and you haven't spoke to your father and Lord knows when, and you did all of these things to hurt your father, do you really think he's going to leave that inheritance to you? So think of it that way. In order for us to inherit what God has for us, we have to be in good standing. We have to have a relationship with him. Because who is going to say, me and you get into it and I've disrespected you and I've done all these things, and then 5 seconds later I come back and say, hey, can you give me, X, Y, and Z money, and I need you to take me here.
Like, what do you mean?
You're going to look at me like, hold up,
so
we're
not going to address
curse me out. You just talk to me any old kind of way, and now you expect me to give you something? That's the exact same way it is with God. If you ignore God, you don't spend time with him, you don't have a relationship with him, but every time you need something, you're running to him. Why do you expect him to be there for? You have to have a relationship in order for you to inherit the kingdom.
Well, it's the same thing that goes on in families too. It's the same exact thing. It's the same exact thing that what you said. That's all basically all I can say. It's the same exact thing. But go ahead, I'm sorry. But at the same time, when you become humble and mild and gentle, it doesn't mean you just let people railroad over you like you're this person that doesn't know any better. No. Humbleness, the first thing with humbleness is you listen. You don't think that you have it all or you have it all, whatever. You're willing to listen. Listen, like you have some people that think they have it all together and they don't want to listen. They don't even want to let somebody open up to say, hey, this is what I thought. This is where I get my perspective from, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You have to be willing to listen. People make quick judgments before even understanding somebody else's story. Because I had somebody to ask me one time. They were like, ask me about some old famous singer from way back. I don't even know if it was the 50s or 40s or whatever. They asked me, and then I was like, no, I don't know who that is. He was like, oh, you don't know him? Oh my God, whatever. And I let him talk. He just went off about that, right? So I asked him, I said, do you know what it's like to grow up poor without, or your father, wasn't given proper education, so he couldn't give you proper education? Do you know anything about that? No, I don't. You know what? You're right. I'm so sorry. Exactly. You humble yourself to not think that there's only one way. Just listen to other people, and then when you listen to some other people, that's knowledge. You get to understand more and all this other stuff. That's what humbleness means. Don't feel like that it's all because of, money or something. Because I have money, I ain't gonna listen to this person that's poor, because you may. But maybe you can learn something from talking to that person and say, hey, let me just lend a helping hand. I have just the answer for that thing that you asked me about. That's part of humbleness. And that's why those people inherit the kingdom on earth, the kingdom of heaven on earth, because of it. It gives you it opens you up to listening and not getting out of your own way. I'm sorry.
And no. Opening up to listening is true, because humbleness is also being childlike. And when you're a child, you're open to learning and hearing, and you want to please your parents, just like we should want to please our Father in heaven. That's what it is. It's becoming childlike and understanding that you can't survive without God, that you're depending on God, just like a child depends on their parents. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's good for us to be humble, to know that we don't know everything. We don't know what's best for us, that we have to seek His face for wisdom and understanding, mm-hmm. and to also be open to receive the truth of God's word. Mm-hmm. We have to humble ourselves, because the minute we think we know everything is the minute, which you always say, your ego kicks in and you edge God out.
You edge God
That's
out.
exactly what happens when you're not humble. And to your point of your example that you just gave about the gentleman, his whole thing was, everybody should know this, but it's acknowledging that you don't know everything. That's what it is. And saying, I need you, God, because in my own capability and my own understanding, mm-hmm. I'm in trouble without you. Yeah. So being childlike when it comes to God and saying, you know what, I need you to survive. I have to depend on you to survive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is so true. And it goes all the way down to many other things. And the key thing about it is, I go deep. And that's the thing about me. I try to go as deep as possible as I can go with anything. That's the only way you can make sure you get to the right understanding. You have to get your mind so set on trying to get in God's mind that you get so deep in your mind that you try to make sure that you're right, if that makes sense. You can never be in the mind of God, period. But
wait, you can never be what?
In the mind of God. You can't outthink Him.
No, okay.
You can never outdo it. But my thing was saying basically your mind should be working to try to get there. It causes you to what? Want to be in righteousness. And in righteousness you have humbleness and all that to come with it. But what I was trying to get at is they have the same things that they're teaching in other religions and all this other stuff. So to highlight on this is how we're all one under God is. You can go to the Quran and they're talking about inherit the kingdom of earth and being humble and all this other stuff too. I'm not advocating for them. Trust me, I'm not. But I'm trying to say is that those people shouldn't be divided against somebody else. If we come together and understand that this is for the kingdom of heaven on earth, maybe we'll sit back and listen.
You crossed over. You just branched into a whole nother lane. Just
I'm sorry, but just go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's somewhere else.
Okay, yeah, I want to go there, but all right.
The Quran and you can't just leave it like that. But
it was just silly. It will get there, but I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. So that's the only thing I have to say about being humble and becoming ancestor to the kingdom of heaven on earth. What do you become an ancestor to? When you're an ancestor or something, that means you're the people that come after you, your next generations to come. You already taught them. They already understand it. They already know, so that it can remain continuous. Now the kingdom of heaven is where? It's on earth. It's moving nicely. It's moving because you've come in, you've become Christ-like, you've given it down to the next generation. They understand it now. They're giving it on to the next person, and then be spreading like a virus. And before you know it, the kingdom of heaven is where? On earth. We as humans have fulfilled our purpose together as one. Nothing else? All right. So you want to go to the next one? So that one is, we have repenting, clearing your mind, truth, humbleness. Humbleness is number 3. And then after, I did go get ahead. After humbleness, there is what? Righteousness.
So in the NLT, it says, God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied.
Okay, and then in the KJV, it says, Jesus said, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled.
I can say that when you hunger and thirst for righteousness, which another word is for righteousness is justice, the worldly way of thinking is in contrast, which is that you pursue your own personal needs. We're in a society where everything is about me. And I think that's why it is so much, which you stated earlier, so much division and why we're not united and why we're not one. And holiness actually means one. God is one. We are to be one. And so because people are not necessarily, hungering, thirsting for righteousness, it's more so my own personal pursuit of what I can get out of the situation. This is why crime, for example, is at an all-time high because people are thinking about what I want and what I need and not thinking like, if I go and break into this person's house, they're going to now be without their hard-earned money. They could have kids, elderly people, they could, all be sick. But none of that crosses their mind when they enter into that house or they rob someone. It's all about what I need right now and in this moment. And it seems like we're going towards more of a selfish society instead of doing what Jesus was our example, which he came to serve others. This is what we should be thinking about. This should be something that's at the top of our mind. How can I serve someone else? But instead, we are so consumed with serving our own needs that now it separates us. We're no longer united because I'm focused on my agenda. He's focused on his agenda. And the needs of the people are the furthest thing from what we should be focused on. Politicians are no different. The leaders of our country is no different. And this is why the world is so divided, because we're not hungering and thirsting for righteousness. Instead, we're hungering and thirsting for what I need to do in that moment.
But what is righteousness, though? Where do you get your thing? Your definition of what righteousness is? That's the question. I don't think that people are not trying to. I'm not gonna say that they're not striving for righteousness, but like you said, they come up with their own thing of what they think is right instead of what is right. And the only thing that I can chop it up to, or really chop it up to, really say that you can go back and refer to is the scripture. That is what's right. Period. That's what's right. And it has to do with the kingdom. In the kingdom, everything is right. Everything.
I think something too, the reason why people are so focused on their own personal needs is because they're not satisfied just with what they have. And that's what it basically says. When you hunger and thirst for justice, you will be satisfied. And everybody is so focused and consumed with what somebody else has, what somebody else is doing, instead of saying, you know what? I'm satisfied with being me and what I have, whether it's less than somebody else or more than somebody else. It doesn't matter. My needs are being met and I'm surviving. But instead, people are out there, doing harm to others because they're trying to gauge what they have versus that person. So it's like, I need more. In actuality, a lot of people who are going after more don't really need it.
You don't really need it, honestly.
And something that I find so interesting is people who really don't have a lot, they're some of the most humble people.
Yeah, that's real. You can't argue that.
Humble people. Go to some of these other countries who have a fraction of what I have. And they're just like, long as I have a little tin roof, I can eat every day, I have some water, I'm good.
And that's the thing why I think, and I've been questioning this. This is just a question in my head that I always have. And I know we're supposed to serve other people and things of that nature, but I've been to Africa. I've dealt with, people from Africa and things of that nature. They're very humble people. My question that I always have in my head is, because I know a lot of people that would go to Africa. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that, but the question I always have is, and the problem that I have, because I could go there, and do many things, but the question is, do I go there and serve when I have a cross in front of me? What do I mean when there's a cross in front of me? There's stuff that's going on right here in front of me, right here in the land that I am in. For me to uplift and act like everything in my land is good in my kingdom and go to another kingdom, would I be a hypocrite? That's the fight I have every day. Not saying, it's people what they want to do, but that's the question I always have. Like, for me, is that righteous? Is that right for me to, see that the mental illness in our country is in the United States of America is probably at all-time high. The poor, you still have poor people here today than probably ever before. You still got more hatred and copious behavior and all this stuff going on, and sicknesses, people in their bodies, they're sick. So would it make sense for me to turn a blind eye to this and go here and help that? I don't know. That's why I'm torn, and I don't know. That's just where I'm at when it comes to that. When it comes to, that's how deep righteousness should go in your mind, and it help you with purpose. But go ahead.
No. I also thought about the parable that Jesus talked about in Matthew 20 about the vineyard workers, right?
And you going there?
Well, no, I think about this because this is, I think, what's happening with society, why they're saying, they're looking at it as, no, we're out here seeking justice for someone else, right? People are like, wait a minute, we do that. People are out here really seeking justice. But something that was interesting is that, the owner of the land, he went out in the market and he saw some people standing around, right? And wait, is that the right parable? Yeah, that's right. And he saw some people standing around and he said, hey, what are you guys doing? Oh, we're waiting for work. He said, come on. This was early in the morning. Come on and come back. I'll pay you 1 denarius to come work in my vineyard. And so he went out again later on in the day. A couple of hours had passed. He saw people standing around. He said, okay, what are you guys doing? Hey, we're waiting for work. Come on. Come work in my vineyard. And then, there was an hour before the work day was supposed to be over. He went out again into the market, saw some people. What are you doing? Oh, we're waiting for work. Come on and work in my vineyard. And so when it was time at the end of the day to work, he had the people who had only worked 1 hour get paid first. And they got paid 1 denarius, right? And everybody else who had been there all morning long started having issues. And so in our society, those people who were having issues, we would say that's justice, because they like, wait a minute, we done worked all day long and you're only paying us the same as the people who came and worked 1 hour. That's how we look at justice. Instead of saying like, you know what? That's a blessing that they didn't have to work as long as us, and they're getting paid the same amount. And it should be more so focused on, am I getting paid what was agreed upon? Which it was. They agreed to the same amount. But instead, we are so consumed with what somebody else has, and that they didn't have to go through the same things we went through to get it. And so that's our way of looking at justice. Instead of saying like, well, I did agree to that, so long as I'm getting what I need, that's the only thing I should be focused on. Nobody in this situation was shortchanged because they agreed to it. And guess what? The owner of the land had the right to say what he was going to pay each person. It was his money to decide. But here we look at justice as everything has to be the same way for everybody. Instead of just saying, long as my needs are taken care of, and if somebody happens to get the same or more, it's okay. We're all being taken care of. But we look at justice, in my opinion, in the wrong way.
But where can you get, the right justice from? You have to always boil down to,
Go
reading.
to the word.
You have to, man. That's where you determine what's right and what's wrong. It really does. It really does. You have to. It has to be where you're almost. I don't know if you've ever been really, really hungry. You haven't had food in a long time. You'll do anything to get what? Either some water or some food. So you have to be the same way when it comes to righteousness. And when you hunger and thirst for it, it'll make you what? Go to where you go to where you know the righteousness is at. You have to be that hungry for it that you go there. When you go there, you will find knowledge. Then you'll have to get the understanding, and understanding will lead you to what? Wisdom. What is wisdom? Wisdom is you get everything with wisdom.
But you get righteousness when you digest the word, because it becomes a part of who you are. It's inside of you. And the word says when you hide his word inside of you, meaning that's what that means. When you hide it, that means I know it.
You know it. And
then you
take
cannot sin, and sin means to rebel against the law. Because when you know the law, you won't rebel against it.
And if you have any questions, you'll say, hey, just like attorneys or anybody else, they have a reference. A reference point. Let me make sure I'm right. Stay quiet. Don't say anything or whatever the case may be, and just let me go find the law, because the law is going to tell me how do I approach this situation, what do I do, and how do I do whatever. It will save so many people's lives today from being killed. People from probably doing the wrong things, adultery, and all these other things. If we were to teach like this and understand, take a breath. Take a minute. Clear your mind. Clear your mind. If you do that, and then you step in, you find what is the truth. The truth is going to lead you here. When you are searching for the truth and you trying to understand, you're going to go here. Then you humble yourself, because if you don't humble yourself before you go to somebody, you're going to go in anger. You're going to go in anger. So take a minute, change, go to your mind, clear your mind, go to find the truth. Then in the truth, you'll become humble. And then when you find humbleness, you'll find righteousness. And then you'll go into any situation with a different approach. So those are the new, additional 4. Repenting, changing the way you think, finding the truth, humbleness, and righteousness. This week we're coming from 5:5, and it says, Jesus said, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth."